Welcome to this podcast, The Sound Healer's Voice. My name is Ali King, and my voice will be your guide for today's journey. All you need to do is take some time to listen. Today's topics I will be discussing are on the education of sound healing, so particularly suited to those of you curious about the benefits of sound healing and you'd like to learn more. Also, if you're interested on the effect that sound healing has on the brain. Firstly, as always, I'll run through any events I have on this month. So I'm sitting here, it's early November. I have my ceremonial cacao next to me, and I'm just thinking about the plans I have to look forward to. So next week, I will be in Utah, USA. This is the home of the Crystal Alchemy Singing Bowl. So Crystal Tones is based in Utah, and they are the producers of the Crystal Alchemy Bowl. And I work with Crystal Tones as a master alchemist and a distributor and partner of these very precious magical singing bowls. These are the most premium singing bowls on the market and the most magnificent you could possibly play. So every 3 to 4 months, I take a trip over to Utah to restock for my students who I sell bowls to and supply to. I choose beautiful harmonies for them. So each bowl is very unique, and they might have a request, like I have a student this month who'd like me to find her an amethyst bowl in a certain alchemy blend, plus in the note she prefers in size. So I'll work on different orders and I'll go through hundreds of bowls, literally hundreds of bowls in Utah. And this is the temple, is what it's called. So the temple is where all the bowls are held, and only partners can go into the temple. So there's a few people, and there's only a handful of partners in the UK who are allowed into that temple. Like, I can only think of 2 others right now off the top of my head, to be honest, that I would know of. And we then bring the bowls back, so that's the wonderful magical process, and I love going over. It is a challenge because they're on a completely turned over time schedule, and then I'm often working with my buyers, which could be worldwide. I might have someone from anywhere in the world who's looking for a really rare bowl, which happened last time I was there. So then I'm trying to work on the different time zones, letting them know, okay, I found the bowl, let me know what you think, if you want it or not, and so on. It's like finding needles in a haystack when I get special requests. I had a very unusual request last time. It took me a while, but I did find it. And these bowls are complex, so that's why they only allow a few people to be partners. We're educated on the bowls. They're very choosy about who they let in. I'd already been manufacturing my own bowls, so they knew that I had knowledge, and then they upskilled me on their beautiful alchemy bowls, and now I only distribute for them. So I'm really lucky to have that honor at the moment, and it's such an amazing warehouse to go visit, all these beautiful alchemy bowls. And if you follow me at Ali Crystal Bowls on Instagram, you'll see my posts when I'm there, and you can run through my old feeds. When I was there last time I was there was August this year, and you can just see me surrounded by all these really beautiful, rare, incredible crystal alchemy singing bowls. And they are, like, I also teach my students who do the sound healer trainings with me on how to play traditional white frosted crystal singing bowls and the clear quartz crystal singing bowls. So I make sure my students have all the knowledge and can play all types of bowls. But they are the most magnificent premium bowls. So if I'm playing, I often will use those. But I preference those because they're just so remarkable. They're incredible. Like, one I have at the moment in stock is a beautiful ruby platinum bowl. It's a D, so it's quite a deep, droning bowl, incredible. The laughing Buddhas are the orange, vibrant bowls, orange and gold. They have a joy, laughter, energy, and they play incredibly well. So it's a whole world to explore, and you can check out my website, crystalplanets.com, to get to know and listen to the bowls. And you can always just drop me a message on it. So that's going to be Sunday. I'm doing that, so a few days away. My next big workshop is the 1st of December, and that is a big sound bath. And I have a new magnificent Italian grotto sonora gong to play at that sound bath with the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls and my harp. That's in Solstice, which is an amazing, beautiful new studio in Primrose Hill. If you're familiar with Solstice London, it's already on Primrose Hill, but they're opening another larger studio for sound baths and yoga. So on the 1st of December, 4 p.m, you can join me there. I'll share some links on my Instagram to book, and I'll try and pop enough links under this podcast in case you're curious about that. And then my next epic big sound bath workshops are the 1st of January, New Year's Day. I'll have one in Tri-Yoga Camden early afternoon, and then one again in Solstice that around 6 p.m. So 2 p.m. in Tri-Yoga Camden, and then Primrose Hill Solstice will be 6 p.m. Those will be very special, large-scale sound baths. And if you've been to my larger sound baths, you'll know they're not to be missed, and they'll be with cacao ceremonies, so ceremonial cacao to begin the deep healing journey. Now, I shall get into our juicy topic today. I'm going to discuss with you the neural effects of sound healing, exploring the brain's response to crystal bowl playing and sound baths, and what happens to the brain of the active player versus what happens to the brain of the listener. So the active player essentially could be me at one of my sound baths. I'm the one actively playing the sonic sound instruments, and the listeners are those who choose to come and lie around my sonic sound instruments and receive the sound bath. And in regards to education in the sound healing world, years ago, and even now still some educators, there's a little bit of fluffiness, a lack of academic knowledge and research being passed on to the student. So I've been told some students who come and retrain with me, they've said, oh, I did a training and I spent like 8 weeks learning about chakras. And what we know about chakras is, yes, they're wonderful to understand and to have in your toolbox as a sound healer, but they are secular. So that means if you're booked by an office perhaps, or a large company, they will be booking you most likely for a non-secular sound bath. So that's happened to me recently, where I had a nice wonderful booking in a beautiful office in central London in Victoria. And when I went in with my harp and my crystal singing bowls for the sound bath booking, immediately the lady who booked me, who was in HR, came up to me and just said, gosh, I have a student who wants to join, or a member in the office who wants to join, and she's concerned if you'll be talking about chakras in the sound bath because it would not resonate with her religion, with her religious beliefs, so she won't attend if you're teaching that sort of sound bath. So immediately I was able to say, no problem, I can offer non-secular and base the sound bath, because they had requested some guided voice as part of the sound bath just to settle people in. So I am educated in areas of psychology, which is non-secular. Psychology is non-secular, it's a science. And mindfulness comes from the world of psychology. It's a form of guided voice meditation, non-secular, science-based. So I love to share my sound baths with students who I know who are very open to the mystic stories. I'll talk about ancient Egypt, mysticism. I'll talk about angels and guides, and that's my natural style. I love that style of sound bath. However, I'm also very much educated and comfortable and happy to teach in a style of mindfulness. And anyone who comes to my class every Tuesday at 6 p.m. in Tri-Yoga Shoreditch for Yin and Sound will know that I always start with mindfulness, because it just really suits the group. They really adore it and have a very full class. Everyone keeps coming back. It's often fully booked. So, and the reason it works for them is they've just come in from the office, they've had a busy day, and they need some mindfulness, here and now cues, some gentle guided voice, inviting them into the here and now, and inviting them to release from busy thoughts of the past and the future. And if I was to immediately talk about chakras, it wouldn't really resonate in the same way. I'm very comfortable with chakras. I often work with those. I teach them in a way that I don't overly cue the verbal word chakra, because it doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. For example, my husband would not relate to that word, but I could teach in guided voice and discuss colors and energies, and then it works well for a large group audience or people who don't study chakras or relate to them. So I do love chakras. I believe truly in them, but I do also feel that if you're educating as a sound healer, if you're a professional sound healer, you need to have a non-secular way of teaching and a secular way of teaching. If you teach in a secular way, you need to be able to come out. Let me rephrase that. I feel like if you're a professional sound healer and you're taking bookings from corporate clients, you need to have a non-secular way of teaching. So you are respectful of all religions in that group and can communicate comfortably with everyone. So that means that it's fully inclusive. You're not barring anyone from joining in, which is very important. And then you can teach your other sound baths to your other groups in any way you like that suits you and resonates with you and them. So it's something to consider and be aware of if you're educating in that world. So I'm going to share with you, as I've mentioned, the neural effects of sound healing. This is a science-based topic with academic citing, which means I've researched different academic journals and referenced them as part of this topic. And that's how I might teach aspects and modules within my sound healing diploma. And if you're curious about that diploma, it's online, soundhealercollege.com, and you can study with me in person or just online. So what happens to the brain of the active player? So if I'm playing sonic instruments, whether it's the harp, crystal singing bowls, or the gong, as an experienced sound healer, I know that when I play these instruments, it requires a meditative focus. And as I play, I bring my full attention and awareness to the present moment, releasing, like I mentioned with a mindfulness practice, any busy thoughts of the past or future. My inner intention is to bring deep healing and relaxation to the listener, which I often express verbally to my listeners before playing. I tell them, this will be a journey of deep relaxation, a journey of deep healing. And all you have to do is lie back, close your eyes, and listen. Sometimes at the start of a 1-hour sound bath, I may feel a bit stressed or nervous, anticipating potential issues that could arise over time. For instance, I am extra cautious not to drop a mallet or create an overly dissonant sound. And that can happen at the beginning of sound baths, as you might realize you've positioned one of your instruments in the wrong place and it falls and crashes, and then that will disturb the sonic sounds you're sharing, and it might slightly aggravate or awaken the listeners who are trying to relax. So I'm always looking out for possible, and that's called dissonance. I'm looking out for possible dissonance. It's not a harmonious sound when something crashes to the floor. However, as time passes, I begin to feel more relaxed and enter a state of flow. And you'll also often hear flow associated with artists, whether they're a writer who's writing poetry or a book, or whether they're a painter. And I am also an artist, so that's probably why I'm a sound healer as well. So when you go into a state of flow, your mind is so focused on the task, you stop worrying about everything else. And it's a very good feeling. It is possible. Oh, I should add, as time passes and I feel more relaxed and this flow state begins, it is possible that my own body system becomes entrained with the sonic sounds. This experience helps to relax me as the player. At this stage, I feel confident that the sound bath will run smoothly and I no longer fear any audible mishaps. And I try and remind my students of this because they train with me and they'll know I'll host a workshop for an hour, sound bath, and they might be practicing at home and they think, gosh, how will I keep playing for an hour? I get a little anxious. I don't know how to keep going. And this is why I've added this sort of information for students, and I'm sharing this podcast is one student in particular who listened to this and know that I'm creating this for her as well. The trick is to play. You just keep playing and then time just goes by eventually very fast. I remember when I learned to drive, my driving instructor, his advice, and he was like a top level driving instructor, he was brilliant. He's like, you just need to drive. Like, stop pressing on the brakes, stop pausing. You're going to interrupt the car behind you, just drive. And it's the same with sonic sound and being a sound healer and playing for an audience. Just play, essentially. It's going to be repetitive, and that might feel strange at the start, but it's meant to be repetitive. You're going to play the same beautiful bowl, gently drone it, go back to it, drone it again, add some other harmonies, and that's what it is. It's this beautiful, gentle droning of your sonic sounds. And it's okay if you repeat your C note again and again. Playing sound healing instruments such as multiple crystal singing bowls is a complex task requiring the coordinated use of multiple brain areas. Now, some people will say, it's not complicated, look, it looks so basic. I think you can look at it two ways. I think playing two bowls like I would do, I could play obviously two at the same time. At this level, I should be able to do that. And some of my students are happy just playing one, and that's all fine. It's a little bit complex when you've been doing it a long time. It's obviously not. It's just become second nature. But it could be considered complex depending on your practice level. The motor cortex and basal ganglia control the synchronized movements in the right and left hands for circling the bowls. So these are parts of the brain that's controlling these, while feedback from the sensory cortex about hand, finger, and body positioning is relayed to brain areas like the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex for continuous modulation of movements. So there you go. There's a more academic way of describing how your brain is affected and responds when you play. Meanwhile, feedback from the somatosensory cortex about the precise positioning and movements of the hands, fingers, and body is relayed to brain areas like the cerebellum and the prefrontal cortex. This continuous feedback allows for the fine-tuned modulation and adjustment of the movements involved in playing the crystal bowls. So that's actually quite relevant because I'm doing a lot of modulation when I play. And what that means is if I notice a bowl is I'm playing it and it's going up to too high a frequency too soon, I modulate, I slow down, I change the way I'm playing, but I do keep playing. But I have to constantly seek feedback from the sound and monitor that feedback and respond to it in order to play well. If I was not doing that, I would let the bowl go up to high frequency, startle and alarm the nervous systems of my listeners, and they would no longer want to listen. They'd want to walk out of the room. So that's all part of the practice as the player. The brain's auditory cortex analyzes the sounds being produced, enabling the player to monitor and adjust their performance as needed. Now, I may have said that already, but they're repeating. Crystal bowl playing involves the complex integration of many sensory systems and higher order cognitive processes in the brain. This activity may lead to changes in brain plasticity over time. Indeed, research has shown that compared to non-musicians, musicians have larger brain volumes in areas involving auditory and visuospatial processing, motor control, and feedback integration. When playing crystal singing bowls, the player often enters a flow state of mind, comparable to a meditative state. In these peaceful moments, the sound bath player has the opportunity to let go of busy thoughts of the past and anxious thoughts of the future. This allows them to be fully present and immersed in the here and now moment. And now let's consider what happens to the brain, the neural process of the passive sound healing listeners, so those who come to my sound baths and lie down. They're passively attending. They do not have to play like I do. Listening to soundscapes engages a multitude of brain regions, including the auditory cortex, which deciphers the pitches, harmonics, and other sonic elements created by the sound healer. Furthermore, listening to sound baths recruits higher order brain areas involved in emotions, memory, and attention. This can influence mood and arousal, evoking powerful emotional responses such as joy, peace, or tranquility. So you might notice this when you go and experience a sound bath and you're lying down, and if you haven't gone to one, this might happen for you in future, or you could be lying down at home listening to a sound bath online. Sometimes you have all these emotional responses. Immediately you're lying down, you might be fidgeting, so physical responses. Eventually then your body relaxes, calms down. There might be moments where you're frustrated, so that's an emotional response because your mind is still very busy and you're struggling to let go of busy thoughts. You're also placing yourself in a meditative mindset, and sometimes we resist that, and so frustration can occur. And then you might move towards other emotions. You might eventually be very relaxed, feel calm and at peace. So it's something to ponder upon, be curious about. Listening to soundscapes activates various parts of the brain, including the auditory cortex, which processes the various deciphers, the pitches, harmonics, and other sonic elements created by the sound healer. Listening to sound baths also engages brain regions involved in emotions, memory, and attention, which can influence mood, evoking feelings of comfort, relaxation, or inner peace. However, we must also note, like I've said, that for some, there could also be feelings of frustration, confusion, and anger. You're not always going to be in a blissful state in a sound bath. There's been moments in sound baths where I've been irritated and I've just been really curious. Gosh, why am I so irritated? Maybe the frequency was just a little too high. Sometimes they're not droning and I love droning, etc., etc. Maybe I'm cold. Who knows? Beginners to sound baths often experience a range of confusing emotions as they become accustomed to the practice. Some are adaptable to settle and accept the journey towards relaxation. However, others may decide that sound healing is not the right practice for them. From my experience, sound healing can benefit most of my listeners, but it may not be suitable to everyone. And that's like an important aspect to think about as a professional sound healer, someone who's beginning to play, and also someone who attends. Usually your people really enjoy them. There are some people, my husband, for example, he's not overly in love with joining in with sound baths. He's a very busy thinker. A sound bath doesn't help him stop thinking. Meditation doesn't really help him stop thinking. He suits other holistic journeys with a little bit more, like he likes hot yoga. He likes having a little bit more physical practice, and then the shavasana at the end he's happy with. So it's okay to say, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe a yoga class with a little bit of sound at the end would be more for you if you're struggling to deal with a full hour of a sound bath, because it is a form of meditation and not everyone is able to sit still essentially and just be there because maybe also there's trauma in the body, they're going through a process and they're not quite ready for it yet. Obviously, I attract a lot of people who love sound baths. They're all coming in delighted and happy to lie themselves down for as long as possible. So there's the opposite side of that coin. There's people who need the stillness. They need to be there. They crave it. They've had very busy days. They're looking for a holistic experience that's a form of non-pharmaceutical medicine. So they don't want a Valium, they don't want a glass of wine that can have a negative effect on them. They're looking for something that's holistic and healing in the wellness world. And they know that a sound bath gives them that chance to lie down in a community of people, if it's a group one, and start just relaxing, letting the sonic sounds roll over them. And it's a deeply healing experience for those people, and they're the people that keep coming back. And they are people who might have at the start been not so sure if it was for them. They might have thought, I liked some of it but struggled to stay still, and then they came back the next week or the next month, and then something happened. They had a eureka moment and said, wow, this is actually really, really healing, and I love this. And they are now, some of them, becoming sound healers themselves. So it's good to be open-minded on what and who we are. Studies have revealed that listening to music can stimulate dopamine release in the brain. There aren't as many studies on it. I wouldn't call sound healing music. Sonic sound isn't actually music, so I'm referencing a study on music here. Notably, unlike other rewarding stimuli, like food or drugs, sound healing lacks any addictive properties. So, for me, it's like the ultimate wellness pastime. No negative side effects. Effective sound healing works by activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the opposite of the stressful fight or flight response. In our chaotic and stressful modern world, many individuals are drawn to sound healing or sound baths experiences to reset and calm their nervous system. By cultivating the state of relaxation, you can help your clients, if you are the sound healer that is, alleviate symptoms of stress, anxiety, and overstimulation that are all too common in today's fast-paced world. I do always teach my students that as a sound healer, it is vital to understand the human nervous system and the relaxation response. So let me repeat that. Understand the human nervous system and the relaxation response. I'm too relaxed, that's why I'm mispronouncing my words. As your work involves facilitating this restorative state for your clients using healing sound vibrations. So there is some useful academic information for you. If you're discussing sound healing with students, or you're a beginner sound healer and you're starting to work as a professional sound healer and you're looking to share insightful knowledge with students, with listeners, there's more we can talk about than just chakras. Let's remember we're advancing in the world now. We have a lot more knowledge. We have a lot more understanding of the nervous system, the fight or flight response, and the stressors of modern day life. So you can be a very educated, practical, rational sound healer, as well as having knowledge of the chakras, and be that uplifting, emotive, ephemeral sound healer who does teach the chakras. You can be both. I think it's important to have both toolkits in your pocket if you're out there working. And maybe if you're listening because you just like listening to sound healing, this is very useful and insightful for you to see why this is potentially helping you. If you're like I was when I was younger and you're dealing with chronic anxiety and sound healing helps, but you're not sure why and if it's the right lifestyle for you to continue with, then this might help you realize, well, why it helps, what's happening in the brain when you listen, and your physical body and your nervous system. It's useful, isn't it, to have all this wonderful education. So thank you for listening to me today. I always welcome any feedback from anyone that listens to the podcast, and I can share my information under this podcast. Remember, you can go to my website, soundhealercollege.com is one, or follow me on Instagram at Ali Crystal Bowls. And that's BOWLS, because I know when I say it with my Irish accent, it sounds like ball, BALL. That's just my soft Irish accent pronouncing things strangely for the British. Though I was born in London, so I have a bit of a mix, bit of a combo. And I hope you have the most wonderful rest of your day and week. And maybe I'll see you at one of my sound baths. And remember, you can just get in touch at any time through DM or emails. Sending lots of deep healing to you from me.